Hawkins County Board of Education meeting to order. This being November the 14th, 2024 at approximately 6:04 p.m. I'd like to take this opportunity and welcome everyone out. Fall has fallen and continues to fall in some places. So we're getting into the meat of the school year. Holidays are coming up, a lot of excitement. So let's just keep in mind to be safe in whatever paths we may take this holiday season. I'd like to also take this opportunity to welcome Hamilton County Board of Education to observe our meeting. I feel honored that they chose us to come and see what we do, and they've got a special surprise for us later in the meeting. So I'd like to welcome them to Hawkins County. Welcome. And at this time, I'd like for us all to stand and take a moment of silence. Thank you very much.
At this time, I'd like to ask Cooper Collins from Joseph Rogers Primary to come up, and he is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now comes the time for our guests are going to entertain us just for a moment.
Robert says he's going to cheer from the crowd out here. So, what the story is, I come in and she said, "You sang at the TSBA." You know, we always go to Nashville in November, and we do the TSBA where we do all the training and the new laws and stuff. So there's a youth trust that a lot of counties are involved with that helps the school system. So they have it put on somewhere. And this year was the joke telling contest. And of course, everybody said, "We got this." They know me. I could tell stories till 6 a.m. and we're good. So yeah, I walked in. She said, "You sang the song." So that kind of gives the backdrop of it. There was 27 tables in this barn, is what it was, a barn venue, and we all got to go up and tell a 1-minute story. So anyway, the story, and Bradley, he's standing up here he said he's going to hum part of it, but Darlene was my partner in this. So the story, what it is the story is about two people that didn't know each other hardly at all, and they decided to elope and go out and get married. So it's a song, and it goes like this. We got married on Friday. My girl was right there beside me. Our friends were all gone. We were alone. Side by side, we were so happily wed when we got ready for bed then. Her teeth and her hair she placed in a chair, side by side. One glass eye so tiny, one hearing aid so small. Then she took one leg off and placed in the chair by the wall. I stood there broken hearted. Most of my girl had departed. I slept on a chair. There was more of her there. Side by side. Please don't go out to help this
That was good.
Hey, we meet again next month. Maybe attendance will be on the rise if y'all come back. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
We have to go sing for them next month.
Oh, great idea.
Yeah, it's a real great.
Okay, Hannah brought it up.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Hickson, recognitions, please.
I believe we have any this evening.
Okay.
We have some performers next month, but we don't have any this evening.
Okay. Can you read the conflict of interest statement? for the Code of
Absolutely.
Ethics?
Chairman Christian and board members, those of you that have a personal conflict of interest and or an indirect conflict of interest, do you acknowledge these conflicts of interest for all purposes and actions of this meeting?
I do.
Let the record reflect, all did on both conflicts.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Board members' reports, anybody got anything they want to report on? Very good. Okay. Public comments, do we have any? Do not? It's put now before the board for approval of minutes from the September 5th, 2024 board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved. Now it's the time to approval of the format of the agenda. And at this time, if you want to pull an item to be discussed under the consent agenda, now would be the time to do it. I'd like to pull number 10, please, just so we can get some clarification.
That's the alarm system.
No, approval to accept best and lowest bid for CTE expansion projects. Not looking at the right thing.
Gotcha.
No, that's not under consent agenda, that's under director of schools report. We've got to know from that.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So strike that, please.
Okay.
So, of course, the consent agenda will be A 1 through 10, 16, 17, and also include item B under the consent agenda, with nobody having any question of that. So it is now before the board to approve the outline and format of the agenda.
So moved.
So we have a motion,
Second.
we have a second. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. The format of the agenda is approved. Do we have any delegations here? HCEA? We do not. Do we have anyone from the Education Committee of the Hawkins County Commission? We do not. And here I will turn it over to,
All right, thank you very much. First off, under reports, you'll see executive committee approvals, and there were quite a few because of the lack of quorum. We had to run an earlier meeting in October that unfortunately conflicted with several of your schedules, particularly last minute, so we did not meet quorum in October. That's why you approved September's board meeting minutes earlier, because we did not have a quorum for October. Because of that, there were a number of executive committee approvals. We've tried to be as specific as possible on those since those occurred between meetings. Pretty standard. There's a lot of trips that had to be approved and considered given the timing of some of those trips, a lot of them tied to sports. And an equipment upgrade for the portion of the alarm system between the old Chiz site and CHMS to bring that into one alarm service. That's item number 10, just to highlight one of those. But if you have any questions under executive committee approvals, I would entertain any of those, or if you need me to clarify anything, be happy to do so. While you're looking at that, item B under executive committee approvals, going to, let's see here. We do have a special presentation this evening under reports, and that is Ms. Crystal Jesse's here to update us on a class action lawsuit involving insulin and the litigation that's moving forward in several counties. And I do have some information pulled up for her to aid in the presentation this evening. So without further ado, I think if you all are fine, I'll bring Crystal Jesse up at this point.
Thank you. I'm actually glad that Hamilton County's here because I've asked to come in front of you in like January. So if you don't know me, my name is Crystal Jesse. I am a Hawkins County resident. I actually went to Bulls Gap and still live in Bulls Gap. I came before your county commission around 2017 and asked to represent Hawkins County and several counties in Upper East Tennessee, including 3 in West Tennessee, in what's known as the opioid litigation. We filed against 3 of the big distributors, manufacturers, and a group of people. Well, since 2017, we went through the discovery process. 2 of the claims have been settled. But about a year and a half ago, we realized there was a group out there that I have never heard of before, never had anyone else. It's called a pharmacy benefit manager. That would mean nothing to a common layperson. It would mean nothing to me and 99% of the people out here. It was a group that some of the manufacturers had kind of made up to start price fixing drugs. Well, we realized that they were price fixing opioids at the time, so we alleged RICO violations. During the discovery process, what we have figured out is that they're not only price fixing opioids, they're price fixing insulin products. So we have pulled the information and came to the conclusion that they've been price fixing insulin since 2002. They've been price fixing the generic form of insulin since 2012, 2013. So I had to go back to all of my counties and say, hey, my contract with you is specifically to represent you in the opioid litigation. We found out about the pharmacy benefit managers. You gave me the authority to sue them. But my problem is that the judge we're in front of said we cannot amend our complaint to sue in that litigation since it's a completely separate drug. So I had to sign a new contract with all my counties to sue separately the insulin manufacturers and distributors. The biggest one being Eli Lilly, Caremark is another one, but there's 20 defendants, and I have sent a copy of the original complaint filed in Tennessee, which is on behalf of Hamilton County, was filed first, and then the subsequent complaint, Greene County, was second, and then all the other ones, Hawkins County included, go straight to New Jersey, which is where our multi-district litigation is being heard. Now, there's a difference in class action and multi-district litigation, and just to correct the superintendent, is this is a multi-district litigation. Your damages are your damages. If we don't come to an agreement, I try your case based upon your damages, not a class case across the board. It's exactly the same format we used in the opioid litigation. After we had signed up my counties, we did a damage model, and we realized that the impacted parties are anybody that self-funds, or in a case like you, if the school board buys their insurance through what is referred to in Tennessee as a common benefit pool, which we went through all the process to confirm you meet our damage model. Now, all my counties don't. Some counties don't self-fund, some counties buy from a broker. All my school boards don't. Most counties and school boards have independent coverage, which I'm sure you're all aware of, but several counties, such as you, do self-fund. You go through the common benefit pool, you pay the portion, and then an employee pays a portion. What that means is Eli Lilly has made a man-made depletion of insulin. Since 2013, they made a man-made depletion of generic insulin products. So because of that man-made depletion, it has made your funding for health insurance for your employees and yourself, if you take it, increase. So it's taking money out of our budget. We see a huge bump, especially between 2013 and 2014. So our complaint, and it's 130 pages, is very specific. We sued Eli Lilly and Caremark and the pharmacy benefit managers because they took money from our citizens due to their man-made depletion. It ran up my cost of health insurance. So why I'm before you today is Hawkins County is one of the counties that the school board, you all write your independent health insurance policies for your employees. The county has already filed. I want to bring back as much money to this county as possible. Every single school board I've been in front of that I've already represented the county, they're all opted on it. It's funny, this time around I've picked up more clients. The third biggest school system in the state, Hamilton County, has went with us. So people are gradually hearing about it. There's a few things that I want you to know, and he pulled up the contract I sent to him. The contract to represent you is the exact same contract I used in the opioid litigation. There is no risk to you at all. If I don't win, I eat the burden of that. If we win, then it's a contingent fee. Now, one difference, and I was telling Mr. Hickson, in the contract, which was the standard contract for all of our counties, it says 1/3. We have reduced that across the board because some of the states that we're in, it's only a 30% fee structure. So we have reduced it to 30%. But if you remember in the opioid litigation, and my firm and the firms we're working with, we represent more counties in this state than any other group. When it came time for settlement, we have to get approved by a federal judge. They did not approve. It was nowhere close to 30% our fee structure. So the likelihood of we hitting 30%, it will probably be knocked down from there. So I don't want you to be taken back by the 30%. The other thing that I will note is that I upfront all expenses. You don't have to worry about that. And if this takes the exact same model that the opioid litigation does, the benefit for you signing on now is that my counties that signed on with me earlier on, because they took the risk with me, because I took the jump in the leap of faith, they got a 10% bump at settlement time. So you look at Hawkins County that you know in the first round got $2 million, they got $2,200,000. So that's an incentive to get on early, because a lot of people say, well, I want to wait, or I want to see what the Attorney General of the state does. Once the Attorney General files, then the likelihood of you getting a bump at settlement time is less. The other information is that I have noticed it wasn't really public until we got Hamilton County. Now other firms have been coming out of the woodwork, going around meeting with school boards. I will tell you this, sitting here today, no other firm has filed this lawsuit in this state. We are the first. The last scheduling order went down, there's been 45 filed across the nation. We're all in New Jersey right now. We are on the front end of this. I'm trying to get as much money back to East Tennessee as possible. So I wanted to meet, I've been trying to get you on the agenda, but like Hamilton County, my problem is we all meet at the same time, and I have several. I'm going to Greene County and then Greenville City, so I had to get my counties first, then come back around and go back to my school board. I think I've been trying to get on the agenda since June or July, and no fault of yours, it's my schedule. So if you don't want to vote on it tonight, that's completely fine. If you have questions, that's completely fine. I do not know if you've seen a copy of the complaint. I did not bring you all a copy. I can either email it to you separately or leave a copy. I've got Hamilton County and Greene County. The only difference in the two is the front. Now that we have filed and we're on the steering committee, all of ours go straight to New Jersey. So luckily it saves us having to do the motion and burden and move straight to New Jersey. Other than that, everything else is exactly the same in the complaint. So I will leave that. With that being said, does anybody have any questions?
Would you like a copy of the?
You want me to leave a copy of the complaint?
If you could, please.
Absolutely. Do you want Hamlin and Green both?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just so we have it.
Absolutely. He has the contract, which is what he pulled up. Yeah. And he has the Hamlin County exact same
if you're okay with it, I'll forward it.
Absolutely,
Okay.
that's perfect.
And I think that we as a board would need to really have a chance to take a look at this and check with our attorney.
The other thing I would ask, if you check with your attorney, if they're recommending other firms, two things: we are local. Ask them if they get any kickback or any compensation from the firm they represent. Because I have seen that. I'm not saying that's happening in any situation here, but I'm a Hawkins County citizen. I pay taxes. I don't want double dipping, and that will not happen in our case. We don't represent any firms in the state. This is what we do for a living. I know the France law firm from California. They're a California firm, and one thing I like to do is keep as much money in my county as possible. I've never seen the France law firm sponsor a kid or any gymnasium event. So, but if you have any other questions, I know they represented you in Jewel as well as in social media. They do not represent you in this. They've not filed in any state in this litigation. So we're on the front end. I'll get you the other complaint too. And if you have questions, we'll come back, or if you want to meet with anybody else in the group, we will definitely come back. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Is that acceptable to board members and staff to take a look at this?
Thank you, Crystal. Appreciate the information, and I'll forward what she has provided, and we will scan the others too, so you guys have that. And then if there's any questions, Miss Jessie, are you okay if I just am the point person for questions coming before the board? I'll just email you directly.
Absolutely, and we can show back up. There's a few of us working. We're in 3 different places tonight, so we can get somebody here on your agenda if we need to.
Okay.
Just let us know.
Thank you very much.
And I would ask, before you go with any other firm, have us both here and ask us both questions about the litigation.
Thank you. I have some updates if it's the appropriate time before going into the consent agenda.
Yes.
Under reports still. Just a couple of quick business items, about 4 or 5 that I promise they're quick though. Data workshop, I had mentioned to several board members that were able to join us at TSBA in Nashville over the weekend. We do have a data workshop that we're planning for the 17th. I know that's 17th of December, and I know that that's right before the break for the Christmas season. But the state is releasing proficiency scores, federal scoring information, hopefully school report cards at that time. I'd like to cover that with the board. It would just be a presentation with myself running through each school site, how we did, how we fared across the board, and goals that the school sites have already developed. Just a reminder there on the data that the schools do receive informal data. I've shared what I can with you, but a lot of that's encumbered until the middle of next month for whatever reason. We feel that that's pretty late, but we already have enough student by student information to obviously set goals at each grade level, with each department, and with each school site. But I'd like to cover that. I'd also like to cover the strategic plan overview. We are receiving input regarding our strategic plan that runs through 2025. We need to update that over the period of this school year. So at several open house and back to school night events, math night events, reading night events, we have had a table with information about the strategic plan, and we are attempting to get stakeholder input now. But I'd like to talk to you about the current strategic plan, the goals that are listed in there, and where we think we may need to go based on some input and some internal looks at that as well. Also, in addition, at that data workshop, I'd like to remind everybody, especially those that are new to the board, about ESSER monies and projects that we utilize those federal dollars for. And just as a reminder, those were one-time dollars coming out of the COVID pandemic. We have a lot of projects we were able to take care of. It didn't cover everything, but it covered a lot of expensive items for us that we would have had to burden the taxpayers with. So I want to remind everybody and bring everybody's attention to what we were able to accomplish with those funds, both on the facility side as well as instructional gains. Second item is the Board of Education's athletic grounds and facility funds process. You all reinstituted the $50,000 to go to athletic funds across our system annually. I've outlined a plan there on a single sheet. There's about 4 or 5 bullet points with some dates on it. It is just a recommendation. It is the board's obviously action there to take or edits to make to that plan. But that closely aligns with what we currently have in place without having that public meeting there at the end that has been requested. So what's transpired is we have earmarked and identified projects to spend that money on annually, and have made those decisions internally, communicated with the board where those dollars are being spent. But in order to be more transparent, we'd like to bring that back to the board under Chairman Christian's suggestion. So I've outlined a timeline for that with some actions there that you all can discuss. And I believe Mr. Christian had talked about moving that to new business to consider and or vote on this evening, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's correct.
Number 3, quickly, and I'm trying to be quick, but if you have questions, jump in there. Board policy workshops. We got through all 6 sections last year annually, staff recommendations, TSBA recommendations. But I'd like to tweak that a little bit this year for the sake of, again, a couple of new board members joining us. I propose that staff will review, you will continue to get the TSBA recommendations. We will continue as a staff to go through each of those policies as well and make our own recommendations pertinent to Hawkins County needs. And then we will get those to you in, I propose, 2 workshops. And instead of dragging that on throughout a school year, we're looking at perhaps doing that in January, where we would set up a board workshop to look at any recommended changes or any questions or comments you may have on sections 1 through 3 on night 1, and then have a second night later in the spring looking at sections 4 through 6. And that way we're chunking it, we're taking smaller bites, we're not here all evening for multiple hours, and those that have interest in any of those sections can attend those workshops. And then following those workshops, sections 1 through 3, we will have a board meeting, we will have the readings of those coming out of the workshop just like we would normally, and then the same for sections 4 through 6. If that sounds okay, we can set those dates up. 4th, very quick announcement, Director of Schools Evaluation Workshop, we do have that set for the 9th. And I did provide you a sample that you can take home and look at and see what you think about that. That is straight off of the TSBA evaluation tool, but I have summarized and shortened sections of it based on some input I received from several members on the board. Again, completely your decision to make, but I'm trying to help you with the process of maybe summarizing and shortening that a bit. It is cumbersome if you look at the complete example, but this one is a little shorter, easier to follow along, I think. And it does include a survey portion there at the end, as the board has requested. Under the reports, please note that under item 12, under the consent agenda, just as a look ahead, approval of second lease addendum between Hawkins County Board of Education and Lakeview Volunteer Fire Department. As you remember, we did declare that lot because there were no holds, liens, active agreements on file with the recorder's office at the point that we had declared that surplus and decided to sell the property. After that action, the board took, with Mr. McCarty guiding us through that process, we found an unrecorded agreement with the volunteer fire department. So we backtracked, we returned the money that was placed as a down payment to the award-winning buyer, and we backed out of that deal subsequent to this agreement that was never recorded, never registered, never recorded. We have updated that agreement, and again, I'm looking at item number 4. Number 4 under item 12.
Thank you.
Sorry. Item 4 under number 12. I saw you frantically looking there, so. We have included the addendum lease agreement. I met with Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean said that if we didn't mind just to update that with the current dates, he had worked with Ms. Kirkpatrick that stated if we updated it, if this board took action, we could then get it recorded. Ms. Jennifer will get it approved through notarized for us, and then we will take it over to the recorder's office and get it properly recorded. The only difference in that addendum copy that you see in front of you versus the old agreement is the fact that each party, the Volunteer Fire Department of Lakeview, as well as the Board of Education, does have an exit clause that they can provide in writing for a 30-day exit if something were to happen. An example, in working with our attorney out of Chris McCarty's office, her name was Robin Jarvis, I believe. Robin stated that if, for example, the Volunteer Fire Department ceased to be a volunteer fire department, if there wasn't an exit clause, we would find ourselves in a gray area with an agreement to an entity that no longer exists. Another example, if they wanted to purchase it, they would have to exit the lease because that purchase would potentially happen before the end of the lease. So this gives them the ability to exit, gives us the ability to exit in writing for a stated purpose. The only other change on that addendum is the dates that were updated from the previous unrecorded agreement to the current one. So, and Mr. Bean met me here at 5:30 to sign his copy pending your all's approval. There's a spot there for Mr. Christian to sign, and then if it's approved this evening, if he signs, Ms. Jennifer can notarize it and we can get it recorded. That sale is off, and the two parties have talked. I'm not sure the result of that, but if they come to some agreement, that would be an example where the Volunteer Fire Department may say, we're no longer interested in maintaining that lease and we're backing out. So, long updates. I'm sorry for those, but there's a lot to update you on, especially with last month's not meeting quorum. That's all I have.
Thank you. Public education becomes burdensome sometimes with the collateral things that you have to deal with, but it's part of the job. So thank you for that. That brings us to, and since we don't want to pull anything for discussion, it is now before the board for approval, and that would be A1 through 17, and also including B, approval of budget amendments. Before the board for approval.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. No further discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Consent agenda is approved. That brings us to unfinished business, and I see nothing on our agenda for unfinished business. New business. Real quick, on the $50,000 fund set aside by the Board of Education a number of years ago to help our schools with athletic facility maintenance. But that could be also used for a request by any school for a certain need. Some of the older board members, with more tenured board members, remember we put that in place. And at one time the board had gifted the grants, got together at a board meeting, and it's the same process as Mr. Dixon has presented to us. Then the board would grant the scholarships or the monies for whatever project, but the whole purpose was to evenly distribute that throughout the county and try to keep it as fair and equitable to every school making a grant request. The director and I have discussed this and feel like for transparency purposes it may be best to come back before the board in this process, and we can discuss this. I want everyone to take a look at it and think through that process moving forward. And then, but I'm asking for your support, and it would take a board vote to move that responsibility back to the board, and the board accept that responsibility to grant the funds at a certain time in the year and follow certain procedures. The schools would have to make application, those applications sent into a contact person in central office person tabulates all of this and sees the needs and gets back the request to the Board of Education. Then we as a board determine how to distribute the funds. Any questions on that? Yes.
Can I ask one clarifying question? Since we're in November of this year and Mr. Floyd has already received requests and earmarked some of those for this current year, is it possible to start this in the 25-26 school year? Starting July 1st?
I'm going to remain neutral.
Okay.
It doesn't, I'll just say it either way, but it makes sense, but
With the caveat that we could easily, instead of emailing out those projects and bringing that to Alder's attention in that venue, we could bring it back in the spring and just do a report on where that money went and which school sites and projects were funded.
do you know how much of the 50,000 has been allocated?
I don't. Mr. Floyd and I talked briefly about it today, and I know he's not here. His wife's birthday's tonight, so they're on birthday dinner. But he did state that there are some earmarks to the tune of 12,000-ish right now of the 50 for this year. But he did have some rollover from last year that is included in that amount that is potentially being earmarked for some bigger projects.
Could we take the 12 off the 50 this year, since it's going to be decreased time, but go ahead and if the board approves this, that's the first thing we need to do, and just take the 12 off the 50 or whatever residual funds we have, honor those, honor what Mr. Thomas has gone through, and then just pick up from there.
So all undesignated funds would remain on the table for the board to decide in December?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But it depends on how the board feels, and before we can discuss it, I would like to make that in the form of a motion.
State the motion.
Oh, the motion that the Board of Education elects to take on the responsibility of granting athletic facility maintenance fund grants to determine athletic facility grant funding in the spring of every year, as recommended by the contact person from central office.
I'll second.
So now, we've got a motion, we've got a second. Anybody got any questions or comments moving forward? If not, any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. I want to thank you very much for that, and if you got any questions, we can discuss it, work through it. I remember we did that, how many times, we went through that process about 3 times.
We did.
And it caused a lot of excitement at the schools, it really did, I mean,
Yeah.
and we tried to spread it out, that's the whole emphasis on this. Now, there's been times, we've had some really difficult problems, and it took a big chunk of it to help one school, or come back the next year and help another school. So it is a positive way to help our schools out. It truly is. So I want to thank you for that. Is there anything else before the board?
Can I make one quick announcement
Yes,
here for you?
yes, sir.
One question first. Ms. Jennifer would like me to ask it. And I was supposed to ask it earlier, sorry. The December 5th meeting, there was talk about, because of this one occurring close to that, we had to bump this one back a week. Is there, I know Melissa will have items that need to be placed on the agenda, but was there a discussion about either postponing that or not having one in December? I just wanted to clarify that. That was a rumor, I guess, that we had heard at the central office.
We'll be sending the agenda out on November
It's a quick turnaround.
Very quick.
It should be a relatively, the positive side of that, it should be a relatively short agenda. We had a lot to cover tonight with October's meeting being changed.
You want to bump it out a week, right? Or just cancel December meeting? Can you give us a sample agenda that you got so far? Really? Well, Kathy, you won't get to play the bells this year if we cancel. I don't know.
Other than budget amendments that Melissa has to, and a lot of them on November's will appear obviously on December's county commission meeting because of October's delay. We had to move that. We missed their deadline for November to be on December's. I take that back. So we're going to be on January's for the commission. These will make December's commission, sorry, but
Yeah.
so December's, if we meet the 5th, would then move everything to January for county commission. So I do know that she probably will have more amendments, budget amendments to bring forward. So other than those, we really don't have much of an agenda. We do have the workshop on the 9th. As I mentioned earlier, the evaluation workshop. And the county commission does meet early in December too, so we wouldn't meet their deadline even if we met the 5th.
If the board, I'm just making a suggestion, if we were to not have a board meeting in December, but still had budget amendments that needed to be addressed, if this board were comfortable acknowledging executive approval for the budget amendments with being informed,
The only problem with
We
that,
can't do that.
the only problem with that is the county commission does require an action by the full board to
Full
be
board.
considered. So that would, if we did not meet in December, that would mean that those budget amendments would have to come before the board in January, and we'd take them to commission in February, which does potentially back up that process.
when's our workshop, tonight?
Yes.
Let's schedule on the 9th at 5:30, a board meeting. And if the only things on the agenda is the budget amendments, we can cover that. And then go in workshop.
So 5:30 is going to be board meeting, and then 6 o'clock will be the director of school.
Yes. Yeah,
On the night.
yeah. Now, it's, board, how do y'all feel about that? And then that way we can cover ourselves.
And you're only coming out one evening.
Yeah, for 2 meetings.
Yep.
Okay. So, let's,
I wanted to end the note on a high note, the night on the good note, sorry, if I can talk. We did get T-Boss back today. I know I sent an email to you all, but we are system-wide level 5. So I wanted the opportunity to thank all of our teachers, our administrators, our support staff, our students, and our parents, because it's a team effort, and those efforts paid off this year. We still have things to work on. We still have things to identify that we need to improve. A lot of those things are already being worked on, have been in focus, but growth is tremendous, has been tremendous last year, and we're going to keep that going as long as we possibly can. Good things are happening in Hawkins County schools.
yes, if I may, on a closing note, can we get a motion to approve moving December's meeting to the 9th? And just, so we've got a record of it. Someone would like to make a motion? Okay, we have a motion. Elaine.
I'll second.
Let's raise your hand. So we have a second. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed, that motion is approved for this board.
I'd just like to say that I'm really glad to be back.
We're
And
glad
I'm
to
glad to
have
have
you.
you back. I appreciate everybody's prayers
Absolutely.
that you've already prayed and the ones to come. I still need them. Thank you.
I'm gonna brag on Miss Kathy just a minute, if you'll give me just a second. When I heard that Miss Kathy was in a car accident, when you hear someone's in a car accident, you don't think a whole lot about it. But when you happen to see that accident on video at full speed, becomes very, very concerning. Very concerning. Especially with a person like Kathy Craig. Miss Kathy has been devoted to Hawkins County her entire life. She was born here, she was raised here, her family's from here. Kathy has devoted her life to a lot of public service, her adult life. And she has worked for everything that she has got. And the reason I'm speaking of Kathy at this time, because when I saw the video of her car accident, I was very, very, very upset about that. And then, when I had the opportunity to go see Miss Kathy in the hospital, and walking out of that hospital, I didn't know whether to be relieved or very concerned. Very concerned. But I'm sitting here tonight, honored that she contacted me to help her get to this board meeting. And I was honored to be part of that process and be a friend to her and hopefully some support in her recovery. And I know this board has been very concerned, not only the board, but the entire school system and the county itself. So I personally want to say, after seeing the wreck on video, seeing her in the hospital, and seeing what she has overcome, it is the prayers, in my opinion, that give the strength to Miss Kathy to carry on. So thank you for being here tonight. We look forward to having you back. And thank you for the opportunity to say those words. And we are adjourned. Thank you.